Have you ever met someone who seemed incredibly kind, charming, polite, maybe even thoughtful, but something inside you just couldn't fully relax around them? You wanted to believe they were genuine. Everything they said sounded right. But deep down, a quiet tension kept whispering, "Something's off." We often ignore that whisper. We call it overthinking or assume we're being unfair. But psychology says otherwise. Sometimes what we call niceness is actually a carefully designed mask, a set of behaviors crafted not to connect, but to control. And if you don't know what to look for, you might confuse manipulation with sincerity. That's why in this video, we're diving into 3 psychological signs that someone can't be trusted, no matter how nice they seem. These aren't random guesses or hunches. They're subtle behavioral patterns backed by research, signs that reveal when someone's kindness is strategic, not sincere. If you've ever been misled by someone who appeared warm but left you feeling empty, this might explain why. And once you learn to recognize these signs, you'll start seeing them everywhere, sometimes even in people you thought you knew. 1. They always say the right thing, but avoid real accountability. Some people have mastered the art of saying exactly what you want to hear. They're charming, articulate, and seem emotionally intelligent. They nod at the right times, mirror your language, and even seem vulnerable when the moment calls for it. But here's the thing. There's a difference between emotional fluency and emotional honesty. Just because someone sounds like they understand doesn't mean they actually do. And often, the more polished the words, the more guarded the truth behind them. What you'll notice with these people is that they always sound right, but rarely feel real. They'll admit to mistakes, but only the kind that make them look humble. They'll take responsibility, as long as it doesn't cost them anything. They'll say, "I understand," "You're right," or "I hear you," but the behavior never changes. That's because their goal isn't growth, it's impression. And accountability, true accountability, requires more than words. It requires follow-through, consistency, and sometimes even discomfort. People who avoid that will do everything they can to sound good instead. You might walk away from a conversation with them thinking, "That sounded nice, but why do I still feel unsettled?" That's your intuition catching what your mind hasn't labeled yet. Manipulative people often use polished language as a shield, something to hide behind rather than a bridge to connect. And because they're so skilled at saying the right things, they often go unnoticed. But look closer. Over time, the cracks show. Promises are forgotten. Apologies are repeated. And when something really goes wrong, they either disappear, deflect, or find a way to make you feel responsible. This type of person thrives in environments where image matters more than integrity. They're experts at damage control, but allergic to genuine repair. They'll charm a crowd, but disappoint in private. And what's most telling? When confronted, they don't reflect. They reframe. Instead of saying, "You're right, I'll fix this," they say, "You're too sensitive," or "I didn't mean it that way." Every misstep becomes a misunderstanding. Every accountability moment becomes a blame shift. Real accountability doesn't avoid discomfort, it embraces it. Because growth is messy. It requires admitting faults, facing consequences, and changing behavior over time. So if someone always has the perfect words, but never shows up when it counts, ask yourself, are they really trustworthy or just really good at pretending? 2. They mirror you too perfectly, but lack depth. Have you ever met someone who seemed to instantly get you? They liked the same music, had similar opinions, mirrored your gestures, and even finished your sentences. At first, it felt magical, like you'd finally found someone who truly understands you. But over time, something started to feel strange. Their personality seemed too reactive, too adaptable, and when things got real, when the conversation moved beyond surface level, there was a noticeable emptiness. This is what psychologists call strategic mirroring. It's when a person subtly imitates your tone, expressions, or beliefs to create a fast sense of closeness. On the surface, it builds rapport, but when overused without authenticity, it becomes a manipulation tactic. It's designed to lower your guard, make you feel safe, and distract you from the fact that they're not actually revealing anything about themselves. It feels like connection, but it's actually control. One of the biggest red flags in any relationship is when someone agrees too easily. Not because they share your values, but because they want something from you. Validation, influence, or even power. These individuals rarely challenge your ideas, set boundaries, or express dissent. Instead, they reflect you back to yourself like a mirror. But here's the problem. A mirror doesn't think, feel, or care. It only shows what's in front of it. And when you finally look for depth, an opinion, a story, a raw emotion, you realize there's very little behind the curtain. Another clue? Their personality shifts depending on who they're with. Around you, they're deep and introspective. Around others, they're the life of the party. In every setting, they become exactly what people want. And while adaptability is a strength, excessive mirroring is a mask. It's not rooted in a strong sense of self. It's a performance built for approval. Eventually, cracks appear. When you're struggling, they vanish. When you express something vulnerable, they change the subject. When you need consistency, they offer charm instead. You begin to notice that, despite all the closeness, you don't really know them, and they've never truly let you know them. It's not that they're mysterious, it's that there's nothing beneath the act they've perfected. Genuine connection isn't built through perfect alignment, it's built through shared truth. That includes the awkward, the messy, the differences. If someone is always agreeable, always reflective, but never grounded in something real, be careful. They're not trying to join your world, they're trying to blend into it. And when someone refuses to show you who they are, it's often because they don't want you to know. 3. They create confusion instead of clarity and blame you for feeling lost. Sometimes it's not what someone says that reveals the most, it's how you feel after talking to them. Have you ever left a conversation feeling drained, unsure, or even a little bit crazy? You replay the exchange in your mind, trying to figure out if you misunderstood something. Their words seemed nice, but somehow your gut tells you otherwise. That's not a coincidence. It's a tactic. One of the clearest signs that someone can't be trusted is their ability to make simple things feel complicated and then make you feel responsible for the confusion. This is what psychologists refer to as gaslighting light. It's subtle. Instead of outright denying your reality, they twist it just enough to make you question yourself. They'll say things like, "That's not what I meant," or "You're reading too much into it," or "You're just being sensitive." Over time, you stop trusting your instincts and you start depending on them to tell you what's real. These individuals don't lie in the traditional sense, they distort. They speak in circles, avoid direct answers, and leave you feeling like you missed something. And when you ask for clarity, they act like you're the problem. They'll shift the focus, change the tone, or even laugh it off to make you feel foolish for asking. But the truth is, trustworthy people make things clearer, not cloudier. They communicate to connect, not to control. You might also notice that they use emotional inconsistency as a form of power. One day they're warm and supportive. The next, they're cold and distant. This unpredictability creates emotional instability. You start working harder just to get back to the good version of them, the version who was kind, present, and attentive. But that version was likely never real. It was bait. And now you're stuck in a cycle, chasing clarity from someone who benefits from your confusion. Another red flag is how they respond when confronted. A healthy person might feel uncomfortable, but they'll still engage in honest dialogue. An untrustworthy person, however, will deflect, minimize, or redirect the focus back onto you. Suddenly, your concerns become your insecurities, and their behavior becomes your misinterpretation. It's a psychological trick to maintain control without ever being held accountable. If you find yourself constantly explaining how you feel, or worse, apologizing for how you feel, it's time to pause. Ask yourself, does this person actually hear me? Do they respect my perspective? Or do they turn every moment of vulnerability into an opportunity to confuse or criticize? Remember, manipulation doesn't always look like control. It often looks like charm, followed by chaos. And when someone repeatedly leaves you unsure of where you stand, it's not a communication issue, it's a trust issue. People who can be trusted don't need to distort reality. They meet you with honesty, clarity, and respect, even when things get uncomfortable. Sometimes the most dangerous people are not the ones who shout the loudest, but the ones who whisper just the right words, the ones who smile kindly, offer comfort, and seem to care, until they don't. Manipulation rarely shows up as aggression. More often it wears the mask of charm, and by the time we realize the truth, we've already given too much of ourselves away. But here's the truth. You don't need to become paranoid. You just need to become aware. The signs are always there, subtle, quiet, but consistent. And your body, your intuition, has been trying to speak to you all along. The question is, are you ready to listen? The more you learn to trust your gut, the more you'll protect your peace. The more you notice patterns instead of words, presence instead of promises, the stronger and more grounded you become. You start to choose differently. You stop chasing nice and start honoring real. If this video helped you see something more clearly or reminded you of someone you wish you'd seen sooner, let us know in the comments below. We read every word you share, and your story might help someone else recognize the signs before it's too late. Don't forget to like the video if it resonated with you. It helps more people find content that protects and empowers them. And if you're not already part of the Mindful Sphere community, consider subscribing. We release content like this every day, designed to sharpen your awareness, deepen your self-trust, and help you move through life with more clarity and peace. And remember this, your intuition isn't overreacting, it's remembering.